Mag song.
Who did that?
So you think you got heart? So you think you got balls? So you think Mag can sing? I don't think nothing at all.
What happens when a person is raised to believe their only value is how they look, not how they think, not how they feel, not who they really are, just how desirable they can appear to other people? Welcome to Side Character Deep Dive, the series here where we talk about underrated characters who are still major players in the bigger story. Today's side character is all about Repo, the genetic opera's most glitter-covered tragedy, Paris Hilton as Amber Sweet. And Amber Sweet is addicted to the knife. Amber might be one of the saddest characters in the entire movie. On the surface, she's shallow, narcissistic, spoiled, and completely obsessed with beauty. She is constantly fixing her face, chasing surgery, posing dramatically, and talking like a celebrity who is permanently trapped inside of a tabloid interview. But underneath all of the glamour and surgical enhancement, it's somebody who's completely hollowed out by the world around her. Amber Sweet is not evil, she's just manufactured. And that's what happens when vanity becomes identity. And in the world of Repo, unfortunately, that is fatal. Before diving into Amber specifically, we have to talk about the universe that she exists in. Repo, the genetic opera, takes place in a dystopian future where organ failure has become an epidemic. A corporation called GeneCo rises to power by financing artificial organ transplants. But there is a catch. If you can't make payments, the Repo Man comes for your organs, literally. And the Repo Man in this movie is played by Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so you know you've got something coming for you. He's a very tall man. Anyways, the world of Repo is built on consumerism, addiction, celebrity culture, and bodily commodification. Everything is for sale, including flesh itself, and nowhere is that more obvious than with the Largo family. Amber Sweet is the daughter of Rotti Largo, the dying head of GeneCo. She is positioned as this glamorous heiress, an aspiring surgery-addicted celebrity. She wants fame, she wants power, she wants attention, and she wants validation constantly. But the movie quietly reveals something even more devastating. Amber has actually never been loved for herself. Her worth within the family is tied entirely to her appearance. Not intelligence, not capability, not leadership, just beauty, and that's it. And because of that, she spends the whole entire film desperately trying to maintain the one thing she believes gives her value: her face, her body, her desirability. Now, one of the darkest things about Amber Sweet is that her obsession with surgery, it's not treated like empowerment, it's 100% treated like addiction. In Repo, surgery functions almost like narcotics. People become dependent on enhancement. They chase perfection endlessly. The body stops being something human and becomes a product, constantly needing updates. And Amber embodies this perfectly. Every procedure that she gets temporarily fills the void, but only for a moment. And then the insecurity, it comes back. It comes rushing in full force. And what makes it especially tragic, it's how it's so normalized in her world. Nobody helps her. Nobody is asking why she's spiraling. Instead, GeneCo profits from it. The culture rewards it. Her family encourages it. Her addiction is economically valuable, and that is truly horrifying. Now, a huge reason why this character works so well is because of Paris Hilton. At the time, Paris Hilton was basically the living embodiment of 2000s celebrity excess. Tabloids painted her as superficial, glamorous, rich, and vapid. Repo weaponized that public image brilliantly, when in reality, Paris Hilton is smart, she's intelligent, she's thoughtful, she is a mother, she passes bills, she is a survivor, she is not a dumb, vapid person, it's the persona that she puts on. The audience walks in expecting some sort of comedic relief, the exaggerated dumb blonde socialite character, but the movie slowly twists that expectation into something so uncomfortable. It stops being funny. It becomes sad, and Paris plays Amber with this strange desperation underneath the camp. There's insecurity leaking through every line and delivery. Amber performs confidence constantly, but she never actually seems secure. And that's what makes the character work. Now, Amber's role in songs like Zydrate Anatomy, one of the best in the whole movie, is especially important. The entire sequence feels like a commercial. Bodies are fetishized, surgery is eroticized, and addiction is glamorized. Everything is presented like entertainment, and Amber exists perfectly within that machine because she herself has become a product. Amber Sweet is addicted to the knife, and addicted to the knife she needs a little help with the agony, you know? And a little help comes in a little glass vial, in a gun pressed against her anatomy, and when the gun goes off, Miss Sweet is ready for a surgery. Everything is presented like entertainment. Amber exists perfectly within the machine because she herself has become a product. She doesn't really have an identity outside of presentation. She's an advertisement pretending to be a person. And that's one of the most brutal, and that is truly one of the most brutal themes in Repo, when capitalism fully consumes humanity, that so much that even your self-image becomes corporate property. Now, we have to talk about the infamous face scene. If you know, you know. It's iconic and disgusting, but it's ultimately genuinely tragic. Amber's face literally begins falling apart due to excessive surgeries and dependency on cosmetic enhancement. On one level, it's classic body horror. Repo loves grotesque visuals, exaggerated gore, and theatrical imagery, but symbolically, this is Amber's entire identity collapsing in real time. The one thing that she was taught mattered the most, beauty, it's physically rotting away before her eyes and everybody else watching. And without it, she has nothing stable underneath, and it's devastating because Amber herself seems terrified rather than vain in those moments. The panic is real, not because she's losing beauty, but because she's losing the one thing ever in the world that she was ever rewarded for. And her family never gave her a chance. Another important thing people overlook is that Amber was doomed by her environment. The Largo family is so toxic beyond belief. Rotti manipulates all of his children constantly. Luigi is consumed by violence. Pavi steals identities and literally wears women's faces. The entire family is built around performance, greed, and corruption. Amber never had a normal framework for self-worth. She was raised in a dynasty where people's appearances are currency. And of course, she became 100% obsessed with perfection. The tragedy is that nobody ever encouraged her to become a full existing human outside of her aesthetics. She became exactly what her environment trained her to become. Now, what makes this character surprisingly timeless is that the story feels even more relevant now. Modern culture is so saturated with filtered perfection, cosmetic procedures, influencer aesthetics, online validation, and impossible beauty standards. Amber feels like an exaggerated nightmare version of celebrity culture, but not by much more now. And that's what makes Repo hit so hard all these years later. Amber's story asks a brutal question. If society constantly tells people their appearance is their greatest asset, what happens when that appearance fades? Who are they underneath? Amber never got the chance to figure that out. And when thinking about this and saying all of that, the one person that comes to mind, honestly, the one person that I think of alongside of this whole essay is Sydney Sweeney. I think about her so much. What happens when your appearance is your greatest asset? We see that now being so exploited in season 3 of Euphoria. What happens when your appearance fades? Who are you underneath Sydney Sweeney? Anyways, Amber Sweet could have easily been written off as a one-note joke character. Instead, she becomes one of the most tragic characters in the whole movie. She's loud, she's glamorous, chaotic, campy, but beneath all of that is somebody so crushed under impossible expectations. A woman who was taught that beauty equals worth, and in the end, that belief, it destroys her entirely. Because vanity in Repo is not confidence. It's survival. And when you think about that, in Mag's story, Blind Mag, when she rips her eyes out, she would rather be blind than have to continuously submit to a corporation. And Amber Sweet spent her entire life trying to survive in a world that only loved the surface. That's the tragedy of Amber Sweet. Thank you so much for hanging out for another episode of Side Character Deep Dive. This one is a long time coming. I listen to the soundtrack all the time. We Started This Opera Shit is my favorite song off of the whole soundtrack. If there's another side character you think deserves its own breakdown, let me know. And remember, in the world of Repo the Genetic Opera, perfection always comes at a price. I'll see you in the next video. Sayonara, Spooky Fam.